how community can enable growth as well. And we've all heard the term community-led growth. So any specific example, and I think we've already covered in terms of how that Next Leap LinkedIn feed helped you sort of get a lot of interest in the whole community, which was not part of Next Leap at that time. So I'll ask Arshdeep, any example on how the community helped you grow more members.
So basically, like what happens, as I said, right? Once you start seeing value in the community, and value could be anything for different people, it means different things. So I will not deep dive there, but like once you start seeing value in a certain thing, you naturally tend to recommend it to other folks. Hey, I found this great community. For example, I know for a fact that we have, for example, in chat groups of comedy community in our at front row, people call their friends to write jokes with them, right? Hey, I'm writing jokes here, why don't you join me and like we'll write jokes together, right? That kind of a thing that definitely happens. So that's where I think the whole community aspect comes in, and that is very, very prominent, especially in social media. If you look at it, right, how Instagram grew, how Facebook grew, they didn't spend a lot of money while marketing. It was just that, hey, I'm sharing my photos here, why don't you look at it, right? And that's what the power of community is, where if you find value, you recommend to other folks.
Got it. I think Ritu, based on your examples from Lakshmi or Baby Chakra, any sort of anecdote or any strategy that you want to share?
Sure. So at Lakshmi, it's India's first fintech platform. It's community-led completely. And one of the challenges was that women are not going to start investing straight off. But at the end of the day, what is it that Lakshmi was really trying to do? The community was essentially trying to get women to start talking about money and making it extremely normal. It's not a big deal if a woman talks about money, is what we wanted to establish. So one of the quick hacks that we did work around was we started something called as a 365-day challenge on January 1st. It ends on December 31st this year. Every single day, we called out one number in the community. That number could be any number between 1 and 365. Suppose I call out a number 22, or I call out a number 238. That's the amount of money that woman had to save in her savings account. Because at the end of that challenge, on the 365th day, she would have saved $66,000. We started this off as a community initiative. Trust me when I say this, in 48 hours, we had 1,000 new members in the community. Why? These women wanted to share this particular challenge with all their friends, family, sisters, bhabis, nanans. The families joined in. Why? Because this was the place where the number was being announced. And till date, those women continue to stay there because when they came with that very tangible reason, right? I want to save $66,000. It's a very tangible reason. But they ended up staying for all the conversations till date in that community. So I think it's about showing value from day one also. And at times, if you can show a tangible value, nothing like it. So think of these little things, very small, simple things, but they actually help you with a lot of growth.
I think the key insight for me here is, can you design something fun as well as value adding that they like to share it in their network? Awesome.
Absolutely.
So moving on to actually before that, just one thing I want to sort of ask to Shelton. Any unique program or initiative that you've taken for your community? Very unique, which you feel is not known, and you want to just donate that for charity.
I think I'll talk about maybe one of the events we run. So previously I used to run icebreaker events, and although these had sort of like very generic questions, right, like which you would use for a normal icebreaker, right, like talk about which city of Roma share this. But what I realized later was like I could convert this to more meaningful conversation. So recently what I've started doing is asking, so I think anyone who's, designing an event or designing a session where you want people to meet each other and be vulnerable. So what I do is I have a 3-part event. So I have a 3-structure event. So, when I put people in breakout rooms, random breakout rooms. First question is always sort of to break the ice and break the mood. The second question is hard hitting. right? Like talk about that one job that you tried for but you didn't succeed at, right? Or talk about a failure at college, right? Which really gets sort of people to open up. And then I close the session with something that's super fun, which is, I put people in groups and I have them like, and it's a random thing. Like this is almost like, picking lots randomly. So I'll say, Kunal Shah's hired you as an advertising company for cred, right? Here's your constraints. You got to use an elephant. You got to use a celebrity. Come up with a one-pager for an ad. Now, all of this sounds like really silly, but what it does for your members or your community members, it allows them to bond. It gives them some common ground to work with. It lets them test their creativity and create something from that, while also being sort of vulnerable as well. So this is something I've done, or at least experimented with in the last couple of months. However, a tool I would recommend that I've recently started using is this tool called GatherRound. I think it's one of the best tools I've seen out there for icebreakers. It's really cool. It's really fun, and you can design a lot of unique sessions on that.
Got it. Awesome. My last question before we take some of the audience questions, which they've already written. I want to know how are community teams getting structured as the organizations grow? I think would love to maybe start with Ritu, and also if you can talk about your hiring plans.
Sure. So community teams, essentially, when you look at them, right, you've got to have one person who's purely focusing on the ops, because community is a very ops heavy vertical, and it's and let's be honest, there's a lot of blurred lines in terms of functions. Skill sets, we want the world at the end of the day. You should be able to edit something on Canva. You should be able to write a copy, because who knows if the creative designer is not there or if the content writer is not there, right? The idea is someone who is ops, really good at ops. So you have a community operations manager. Then you have someone who's a community engagement manager / also nowadays called as program managers. Now, these are the folks who really focus on listening to the community members, talking to them, engaging with them, keeping a track of them, looking at data. And then, of course, you have the senior community managers or the community leads, right, who are strategizing the whole piece. You have another profile in a community team, which is the community marketing manager. Now, that individual's job essentially is to ensure how the community is being marketed externally for partnerships, collaborations, bringing in sponsors for gifts, prizes, and stuff like that. At the same time, how is your community being marketed internally? Let's be honest, community as a vertical in our country is just emerging. We need to evangelize the whole idea of community, not just externally, but also internally. And you've got to start somewhere. You have to dirty your hands, because there is, that's how you learn community building. Every single day, go talk to at least 3 users, In terms of hiring, all community managers out here, Next Leap is looking out to expand the community team. We're looking for people from operations and engagement. Guys, please reach out to us. Such a shameless plug-in, but nonetheless, we're a fun team to work with.
Okay, Ashdeep, I think we briefly talked about it earlier as well. So if you want to quickly, in like 30 seconds, summarize the structure of your community team.
Sure. So, as Ritu also mentioned, there are 2 major aspects: operations and program, right? And currently, we have a structure where one overall manager takes care of both the facts, and then they have further 4 to 5 people helping in each category with operations or program or user insights, etc., 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 etc. So that's what the basically structure is. Very vertical driven structure. But soon we are moving towards a structure where ops will be vertical, and the whole program manager or product side of it will become more combination of vertical and horizontal, where one person will be taking care of more than one categories and taking care of overall user journey in the flow.
Got it. And are you guys hiring for the community team?
We are always hiring.
You're always hiring. We are always hiring. After raising $14 million, that's the first thing you do, right? You start posting ads on LinkedIn and elsewhere. From Stoa's perspective, Shelton, how big is the community team today?
I mean, I would say so. Actually, right now our community team is 3, but I think there are 2 additional figures. So right now I have, if I have to talk about a team structure, I do have one person who's in charge of sort of designing the events and activities that we do. I have another person. So I mean, I'll give a shout out, right? Shout out to Sonali from my team and Nikaya from my team. So Nikaya is our Entu Katle. She runs like almost 80% of her engagement. Creates the conversations, does like gets people to sort of engage. However, I think 2 folks on our team who are not directly out, consider the community team, but like we have a person who's on tech ops, right, who sets up all automations, integrations, all like, because you can enable so much with tech, right, to make your life easy on just focusing on those things that can move the needle. And of course, just people who are having conversations, right, keeping track of what's happening in the community, keeping track of the learner's journey, keeping track of engagement, and sort of, so I would say sort of data analyst right now. Sadly, I think, but I would largely agree with Ritu on how she structured out what a community team should look like. I don't have anything to plug in right now. So, I mean, we recently had a fundraise. We're still making the decision on, what are hires, how we're going to structure the team in the long run as we scale and talk about like how we're going to scale with more cohorts as well. So I don't have a plug yet, but I think I should maybe in a couple of months.